Welcome to Agency Bytes, a podcast for agency owners, hosted by agency veteran and coach Steve Guberman. Agency Bytes is a podcast focused on delivering actionable agency information from agency experts in about 25 minutes. Why 25 minutes? Because who has the attention span for much more these days? And you can squeeze in a listen between meetings with time for a bathroom break or coffee refill before your next meeting.
Welcome to Agency Bytes, a podcast dedicated to helping creative entrepreneurs thrive. I'm Steve Guberman from Agency Outsight, where I coach agency owners to build the agency of their dreams. This week's guest is Ariel Cohen. She's the founder of Marketing 411 and CMO of Business 411. She's got over a decade of experience in marketing and has mastered the art of growing a multi-seven-figure agency through building a scalable and efficient operation. As the company grows, her focus has shifted to optimizing her time and building a dream company that supports her vision and lifestyle without letting the business take over, which is what I am all about, which is why I'm so pumped you're here, because that's like, it couldn't be more top of mind. And the thing that when I talk to agency owners, they're like, how do I build this thing that's going to support my business and get out of it? And so I'm excited to dig into it. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, Steve, thanks for having me. I'm very excited.
Yeah. So talk about kind of the launch of, your agency and kind of some of the stuff you've experienced along the way, and not the entire story, obviously, because we don't have that much time, but what got you to launch the business and got you to where you are now.
Yeah, I'll speed right through it. Been in the agency world for quite some time. Failed a couple times as well to get to a success. I think that's pretty common for people who are trying to grow businesses. And I actually had accidentally met my business partner who already was established in a niche, which is roofing. And we joined forces to launch our marketing agency. We already had a great base. So we went all in on roofing, and I've been living and breathing roofing ever since. That was like 4 or so years ago. And so I came from being more generalist and trying to scale an agency through just offering marketing to anybody. But this company that we've had, we really focused on going deep in one particular niche and being the expert. And then that's how we've been able to scale to date.
Singing my song. So prior to 4 years ago, I'll do anything for anybody, any day of the week. Give me the money, whatever business, as long as it's marketing. You were game, right?
Exactly. I've worked with probably every type of business you could think of.
Yeah. And then the pivotal point for you, like, was there a pivotal point, or was it just like, we've really got to lean into this, and then over time started easing into it? What was that transition or, cutoff period like for you?
Yeah, because when you're a generalist, you're acting like a consultant, and every consultation is different. So there's no repeatable processes, and it's almost impossible to scale because while you have that one thing in common, which is marketing, right? And maybe they all need ads, you have that in common, you don't speak their language. You just don't.
Yeah.
And so it becomes really difficult to be able to scale. And so you almost have to force yourself and fall into a niche where you could really build and be the trusted expert and understand their language and speak their language and also know what works, right? Because otherwise with marketing, you have to try something new for every single client. You have no proven success because you haven't stayed in with one type of industry long enough to showcase your case studies.
Yeah. Your business partner was already in roofing. What drew them to it?
Yeah, so my business partner was already in roofing. She had been in roofing sales and doing roofing consulting for quite some time. And it actually came to her where people were asking for help with marketing. They demanded it, right? The market told us what they needed. The industry told us what they needed. And that was my expertise. So it really made sense for us to join forces, and we've gone all in ever since. And we've launched kind of multiple products and multiple things, but one thing has stayed consistent, and that's all in roofing at this time.
Somebody knocks on your door, hey, we're not in roofing, but we do siding or gutter, like something adjacent. Are you playing in that, or are you a hard no on anything even closely adjacent?
Yeah, well, most roofing companies do siding and gutters. That's their
Okay.
secondary offers. So that is most. But yeah, if a doctor, for example, or an accountant was to come to me, we turn that away at this time because we know our niche and we need to focus. Think about it. If I was to take on an accountant, a doctor's office, which I've done marketing for those types of businesses before, now I have to tell my team I have to recreate all the processes because what they've done for roofing companies is going to be different than what they're going to do for an accountant or a dental practice or whatever. So am I really moving the agency forward, or am I creating more work and chaos in my agency? And one of the things you mentioned at the beginning of this call, and what I'm really like all going in on it and geeking out about, is how to optimize your time, your freedom, and build an agency with less stress.
Hmm. We're going to get into that because that's like massive. And I think too many agency owners, we're accidental business owners. So it's like we're going to figure it out and we're banging our heads against the wall and it's all stress. But I'm super curious about like the niching and some of the, say, stumbling blocks. I don't know, issues you guys might have faced leaning into the roofing industry, and some of the myths that I do presentations on niching all the time, workshops, and I go through like a niche mythbusters thing. And, you know, some of those things are like, well, if I do the same thing for the same industry over and over and over again, my team's going to get bored. Or things like, well, I can't do 5 roofers because they're all in competition to each other. Like, what sort of things have you come up against like those that are just misnomers that you've been able to kind of squash?
I haven't come up with any like that
Really?
because listen, if I just have 1% market share of roofing, that's a very
Mhm.
big agency, and trust me, anyone would be
Yep.
very happy, right? There's
Yeah.
there's literally like a million roofers, right? So if I have 1%, I mean, you could do the count there. So that's not the type of issues I'm necessarily facing. I think an
Hmm.
issue we will be coming up on is when to expand outwards into some
Hmm.
other closely related home service type of companies. I think that's more of what we're focused on. But there's no negative from going
Hmm.
all in on a certain industry, right? Because think about it, even if
Say
you're
that
running
again.
ads or sending email newsletters to promote yourself, you could speak to your demographic. You know what their problems are. You know what it takes to grow their company. You know what their profit margin is on a roof replacement. Like, these things.
Yeah. So you're based out of Florida, but you guys work nationwide, right?
Correct. Yes, we work
Yeah.
nationwide. Mhm.
No, and you haven't run up against any sort of, well, you're working for my biggest competitor or any of that nonsense?
Yeah, that is a question that sometimes people ask,
Hmm.
but it's nothing that has affected us or prohibited our growth by any means. There's more than enough companies in multiple states, and also there's enough room. Unless a company is spending 20, $50,000 a month on Google, there's enough room for two people in
Yeah.
the same market to like run ads without competing with one another.
Yeah. And I'd argue that competition is good for them to, feed off of each other and push each other and, things like that. But you're not there to coach them through their mindset of competition. But all right. So you're all in on roofing nationwide, any size business, or it's not just a single person with a truck. There's got to be a minimum, I would imagine.
Yeah, definitely. We do have criteria. It's talking about like what our ideal customer is, that customer
Hmm.
profile essentially. Right now, what that looks like is we will not do marketing for a business under $1 million in revenue. We just don't feel with our price point it's in the best interest of the company. I always like
Hmm.
relationships and to be honest, and I don't want to do a disservice to anyone. I want people to be raving about our work. So 1
Yep.
million is the minimum revenue to even discuss marketing. We have other products for people who are just up and coming. We're not going to leave them hanging, but just our marketing program's not a good fit for them. We also have certain criteria in terms of their growth and their sales team, like what their sales team looks like, because we know no matter how many leads we generate, if the sales team and the intake process is not really dialed in, that things will fall through the cracks and affect the results. So that's something else we look at as well. And then just making sure there's alignment between the owner or the management team that's looking to hire us and us to make sure we can fulfill what they're looking for and what we're looking for.
Love it. Yeah, you have nailed your ICP. You know exactly what their expectations are, how to meet that, how to exceed them probably through your onboarding. Love that. Talk about that first, I don't know, 6 months to a year after you leaned all in on roofing, because before that you were generalist. You're trying to, everything was a nail. You were a hammer for anything.
Mhm.
You lean into it. What shifted for you, for your team, for the entire operation, and numbers wise and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, we pretty much were starting from scratch on the marketing side. So everything we did was from zero. The first thing we did was really focused on obviously knowing the industry, but sales.
Hmm.
right? Like getting sales, because if you're starting out, that first 6 months is all about revenue. That's what you need to focus on, because you can't even build a system if you don't even have the revenue to support your bills or to hire someone to help you, right? So
Yeah.
revenues was really the core focus, and then from there, once we got our some deals in, we would start building out our processes around what we were fulfilling for the client, seeing what works, what doesn't, and then refining our processes, obviously to the point where we're scaling now and we have it pretty dialed in. But in the beginning, when you're figuring it out, essentially you want to make sure that you are focused on sales oriented first, then fulfilling, because you have two jobs as a business owner, right? In any business, it's sales and delivery. That's it.
Yeah.
You're trying to sell and you're making sure you make good on what you sold.
Yeah. All right. So you started at zero. I thought you were 4 years into being a generalist, figuring it out, losing profit, and then you decided to lean in. But you started from the lean in, which most don't. Most do start as generalists because, hey, I'm launching a business. I'll do anything for anybody, get some revenue in, and now I'm going to pull it back and focus on roofing or medical or health or whatever the niche is. But you started niche, which is pretty bold, I'll say.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it definitely is, but it made it easier to grow, and
Yeah.
really like start to get the traction we needed. And I also understand for anyone who's listening who's like, I need to pay my bills, like you need to make sure you can pay your bills, because you are going to be too stressed to run a business and make good decisions if you're focused on how you're going to get your next meal or pay your rent, or so I do believe in doing what you have to do to get that, but you need to allocate time to scaling in the vertical you choose so
Yeah.
that you can kind of off those people with time once the revenue from the industry you're aiming for increases.
Yeah, love that. That's a good thing to point out. So I'm going to ask kind of an odd question, whatever. Throw something at me if it's out of base. But two female owners focusing in the roofing industry, which is predominantly male. Have you had any issues there? Any pushback? Any you don't know my business? That kind of nonsense, or has it been easy sailing in that
Yeah,
sense?
no, listen, I'm sure people have their judgments. We've had a couple people come up to us. I actually had one guy at a show say, "Oh my gosh, I misjudged you, and I'm
Hmm,
sorry." And that was very
love
interesting.
that.
So I'm sure people are judging us, right? But I never let that be something that is a negative. I actually
Yeah.
fuel that to be different, to stand out for our marketing. Nothing sets us back. We're very, powerful, in my business partner,
Hmm.
myself, like we have a very powerful leadership team, and we use that anything we have to our advantage, not our disadvantage, and we don't look at it any differently. We let our kind of our actions speak and what we've built speak, and we've helped thousands of roofers, so I think those numbers speak for themselves.
I love that, man. That is powerful. Very cool.
Thanks.
All right, so let's talk about the scalability of your agency and some of the things that you guys have leaned into to grow this thing and turn it into the behemoth that it is at this point. I mean, you've built a really powerful business. You've got a few products, a few ways to deliver service. What are some of those kind of key scalability features you've built into the business?
Yeah, so obviously our marketing service themselves are very important. But what we actually did was we built two companies. So we have two companies that are like sister companies, and one of them focuses on purely roofing education and SOPs. And so in the
Mm,
forefront, we are actually teaching people how to scale, how to run, how to have systems within their roofing company that then on the back end translates really well into the marketing sector. So that's really been a key differentiator for us. We also created the first ever white label roofing training manuals, and now we even have an online roofing training portal. So things that just no one else is doing in the roofing industry, we're doing on the business 411 side of our company. And then on the other side, we have our digital marketing and marketing services to really help them with the growth aspect.
So you're educating roofers how to build a business because they want to swing a hammer. They don't know how to build a business, similar to a designer launching an agency. I know how to move pixels. I don't know how to build a business. And so you're teaching them how to grow a business, how to run a business. And by the way, now that you're running a business, you need marketing. Let me introduce you to my sister company who does marketing.
Yeah, that's been a big differentiator and component of our business. And just so everyone understands, it's not just people who are just starting in business roofing, the roofing
Hmm.
business either. These are companies that are established companies with millions of dollars in revenue, but their operations are out of whack and they want a more streamlined and scalable company, just like agency owners who are listening to this, right? You
Yeah.
don't want to be all over the place, chaos. You don't want to create a job for yourself. You want to actually be a business owner. And in order to do that, you need the right SOPs, the right playbooks, the right systems, and the right people.
So that's the kind of, I guess, training or education that I would expect from like the GAFs of the world, or like the global suppliers of roofing supplies or things like that. I only know GAF because they're right down the road from us, and I know their creative director, and they were a small client for a number of years. But it's not like I know the roofing industry. So I would expect that from something like that. Where did that idea come from? That, hey, we're going to train them on how to grow their business so that they need to rely on a marketer. Hopefully it's us, because we're already trusted to them through educating them. Like, where'd that concept come from for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really goes back to knowing an industry and knowing the
Mm,
problems and letting the market tell you what the problems are and then you finding a solution to fill it.
mm, yeah. So you guys were like, hey, these are, again, they're not true business people in some cases. In some cases, they are. Like you said, they've built something substantial, but we're going to train them and plug in the fact that they need what we provide on the other side. Between the two businesses, from a scalability standpoint, um, do you see one is more profitable than the other? One is a feeder into the other? Like, how do they interact with one another?
Yeah, I mean, our companies have different metrics, different goals, different objectives we're hitting, and we
Mhm.
run them as two separate companies, but they are aligned in the core values and in the goals and how we empower our team, our actual team, and also our clients. So they're aligned in those kinds of ways, but ultimately they have different, accounts, different metrics, and different goals.
Yeah. How do you build these scalable systems and teams? One of the things we talked about at the onset when I introduced you was that this is building a lifestyle for you and supporting the lifestyle, and you're not tied to a job necessarily. Talk about that and where that direction came from, and what are some of the key components to that for you?
Yeah, I think we're seeing a lot of trends happening right now in marketing and how things are
Mhm.
shifting. And a couple of those shifts, obviously, we're seeing a lot of people. We have a physical office, but we also have a big virtual team as well, an outsourced team. But I think one of the shifts we're seeing is people are wanting to go more virtual style rather than having a physical office. And that really
Mhm.
just depends, obviously, on what's important to your company and your goals. But I think that's a big trend we're seeing more and more of. The other thing is having outsourced teams. I think diversifying, there's a huge talent pool overseas that you could really tap into, which helps with the scalability of your agency. It helps with the profit margin of the agency and also just the results and accuracy. That's really important, the quality of the work. A lot of people, there's a misconception that quality of work suffers if you go overseas, and that's just not the case.
Yeah.
Sometimes my overseas people outperform people that I've had in the past year. So I think that's another big trend we're seeing. You're going to see more and more people tapping into that. And then obviously the use of AI to make all of our jobs easier. It should be, embedded in everyone's mind of how can we use AI to make our lives easier and create the dream company that we want. Things like checking your emails and doing these tasks that just take time, like those are things that an owner should know, like shouldn't be doing with the use of AI or a virtual assistant.
Yeah. Wait, so you don't check your email?
Not really.
Really?
Only the important emails that my VA marks for me to look at.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you have assistants. So from the team and delivery standpoint, how do you, from a process standpoint, I guess, how do you determine? Do you keep it onshore, send it to one of your VAs offshore, or the talent offshore? How do you determine that?
Yeah, so everyone's full time for us. Like we don't have like outsourced that like isn't a full time. We have like
Hmm.
full time teams. They're just happen to not be right like based out of our
Yeah,
office. But how do we like we determine? I mean, I think it's really what do we need in the company to grow to the next level, and who do we
hmm,
need to fill that seat? And then from there, we're looking at okay, who would be the most qualified to do this? Who could do a great job within our budget?
yeah. All of your clients fixed fee retainer based?
Yep. So we have a retainer
Okay.
model at this point in time. Um, and that's how we run everything.
And so it's on you and your team and the systems that you guys put in place to get things done efficiently, and you're not running a clock for the client. And it's like this is what we're going to get done for this scope of work, for this budget. If we want to be more profitable, we've got to pull the levers internally.
Exactly. And that's
Yeah.
something, actually, that's a great point you just brought up to any agencies that are in the growing process, in the newer stages of niching down, is one of the things we found through trial and error is to not rely on one-off projects and go all in on retainer and ask yourself, how could I make this one-off project a retainer project? And when you focus on that, you build up the reoccurring, the MRR faster, and you're able to hit your goals, and you're not as busy doing all these one-off little projects that are driving you all over the place. You actually have people who are committed to working with you on an ongoing basis.
Love that. Yeah. And I think the shift is the natural progression is I'm a generalist. I'll do anything for anybody. And then, all right, I'm going to lean into some niching. And then niching is typically vertically based. Hopefully, it's also service based. And then I'm going to systematize my delivery and shift from one off projects, because that customization, the money just flies out the window. Every time we're trying to we'll figure it out, that's profit going out the window. So systematize the delivery, systematize the fee structures and the SOWs and things like that. So it's all streamlined. So 4 years in, you've built something pretty magnificent, pretty impressive. Are you where you thought you'd be? Are you beyond that? Are you happy with where you are? Like, what's the contentment level?
I want more.
You want more. You're hungry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, we are like, in my mind, we are like tiny, right? And it's funny
Tip of the
because,
iceberg.
and listen, if I was to look back 5 years ago, what I have now is what I wanted then. All right, so you have to recognize that, but I
Yep.
don't think we've scratched our full potential, and that's just I think the hunger inside of me that knows what we're capable of, and our goals, and that's what keeps this process fun. It's what keeps us motivated. Is like we have now set our other goalposts, but I do recognize and value how far we've come. But I wanna do more. And something I've noticed, you're never gonna have it perfect. So for
Yep.
anyone out there building a company, with if you're just starting, you got $100,000 in revenue, $1 million in revenue, 10 million in revenue, $100 million in revenue. I promise you, I've toured back end companies that are doing 10 million, $100 million companies, and I was shocked at what I saw. And nothing against them. It's just you're always going to be building and looking to better your systems, better what you have going on. And that's why roofing companies come to us. There's very successful roofing companies that come to us. And it's not because they're not doing a great job and don't have revenue. It's because they want to get better. They have
Yep.
goals for themselves. And so I think just understanding that and knowing it's always going to be a process, it's a part of the game of having a business.
Yeah, no matter what level you're at, most people need a coach. Look at professional athletes, professional anything, the top of their game, Olympic level, World Series level, whatever. They still have coaches saying, "Hey, you need to tweak this, tighten this up, adjust this." Even just pushing them and motivating them and being a sounding board. So yeah, I love that. There's always things to tweak, and nothing's ever perfectly dialed in. So product wise and trajectory wise, you set the vision for the company. You want to talk about kind of what's next on your vision and on your horizon?
Yeah, I mean, right now we just kind of launched our new, on one side of the business, we launched our new roofing online training system. So, I mean, the goal
Nice.
the goal is really there. We have a kind of an initial focus. We just rolled it out to like an exclusive group of people. So, getting our first 100 companies enrolled in that over the next 90 days is our first, kind of target here. And overall, I mean, the company, I think my business partner and I would be aligned when we say we want to be $100 million company. And then obviously we have to reverse engineer that, right? Break that down.
Yep.
You don't just go from, to 100 million overnight, but breaking down what that looks
Yep.
like. A lot of my goals right now are short term, are focused on AI. How we can
Okay.
incorporate AI into our marketing side of our business. I think there's a huge opportunity right now that we don't see very often, and it's like kind of one of those things. If you're on the right side of it, you could really ride the wave and do something really cool.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I'm so glad you are embracing it. I'm not surprised that you're embracing it, but there's too many on the other side of the coin that are like, "This is going to kill us. We're fearful of it. We're not embracing it." So yeah, I'm super happy to hear that you are. How do we leverage this to our success and to our advantage?
Yeah, if you are listening to this, please do not look the other way. It just look how you can embrace it. Look how you could be that expert for your clients. You could and will make a lot of money if you embrace it, and save a lot of your
Agreed.
time.
Yeah. Yeah, efficiencies are everything. Automations save time, and it leads to profitability. So yeah, it's not going away. So lean into it, embrace it, and find ways to profit off of it.
Definitely, because we see, like, I mean, Meta released that they're going to try by 2026, I think it was, to have all of their advertising through
Yeah,
AI, optimizing the ads. Website builders, we're having AI build websites. So we have to be aware that these things are happening in our industry and adapt. And that's something that's always going to be constant in business and in the marketing and agency space, especially, is change. And you really have to you have to adapt and be quick to adapt.
yeah. This is, I think, I've been in the industry 25-ish years. This is easily the biggest change at most rapid speed that we've ever seen. So it's turning things on end, and like I said, I'm glad that you guys are embracing it and using it to yours and your customers' advantage. So amazing. All right, a couple minutes just to wrap up, and we throw a few random rapid fire questions at you because they're a lot of fun. So the first is, what's the worst piece of business advice you've ever received?
The worst piece of business advice I've ever received. Okay, like, quit your job and go all in. I think that is like the worst advice, because unless you still have, like, your parents you're relying on who are paying your bills, and you're young, and you don't have any kids, you're not married, you don't have a mortgage, whatever, like, you could afford to take that risk, but do not,
Mhm.
like, you have to do things strategically. All that's going to do is make you more stressed out. Like, make sure you're in a place where you have built up and you have some sort of revenue, and then you can make a transition. Like, I know some people say go all in, but I don't recommend that. I think be smart about it. Right?
Yeah,
It's not, trust me, you will not have fun building a business when you're worried about how you're gonna pay your bills.
agreed, 1000%. What's a small habit or ritual that helps you get through each day?
A small habit or ritual, I would say just my calendar. Living by my calendar. I mean,
Yeah,
even personal events at this point, like personal things, like dinner with my friends, like, if it's not on my schedule, I'm not going. Like, I follow my calendar to the T, and that helps me to have, like, balance and clarity and know where I should be spending my time, so my time doesn't go to things that don't necessarily align with what my goals are.
love that. Yeah. And then finally, this is super fun. So if you had to explain your job to a 5-year-old, how would you do it?
5-year-old. Okay. So, to a 5-year-old,
Hmm.
I get to help people build their dreams.
Hmm. That's so clear cut. I love that. Super simple.
It's a
Very
5-year-old.
cool. Yeah. Yeah. Ariel, I love what you're building. Big raving fan over here. So excited to see what's next for you and the businesses, and appreciate sharing your time with us. So thank you very much.
Awesome, Steve. Thank you so much. And good luck to everyone who's growing their business.
Nice. Thank you.
Thanks again for tuning in to Agency Bytes. If you know someone with expert knowledge on a topic that agency owners would love to hear about, go to agencyoutsight.com/podcast-guest and nominate them.